Kick back and stay tuned and enjoy the show.
You're on.
Right now, what about, well, we don't have him to play his
I
disclaimer.
guess if he comes in.
So we don't have to play his disclaimer if you don't come in.
Yeah. Will you shut that door, though? Surprise!
He'll show up, he'll probably show up, and then we'll have to stop everything so he can play his recorded disclaimer that he's got to say. I bet you. But
I don't know where he is. He's usually early.
No. He hadn't answered, so he's either forgot or something.
I hope everything's right. It's been a while.
So help me with the day I've had, Maddie. If
Everything.
this doesn't have any volume or you forgot
No, I
to hit
checked that.
the record,
Your title's
this
on
this
there.
will just cap this day that I've had. It's been busy, Kip. I know you've been busy too. Been a while since we had you on here.
Yeah, it's been a little while, but I'm glad to be back. I appreciate you having me again. Can you hear me get done?
Yeah, you'll
need
have
to
to,
lean
you'll
up.
have
to
to
get up in there.
You have to
There it
lean in a little bit.
I mean, you would think you would know this since you had your own talk show one
Yeah,
time.
So
I had to learn by now.
we normally go over some latest stuff going on in and around the community, and then we'll go over some stats towards the end.
Yeah.
But since the talk right now is the storms and the
Yep.
storm damage. You called me yesterday. I was at a ball game. My daughter's last ball game. I'm going to watch her play. Matter of fact, here he is. Well, he just hung up.
Well,
He's probably saying he's out front. Anyway, so they're in district right now, and they had a ball game, and everybody was expecting it to get postponed because of all the weather moving through last night.
yeah.
No, they said, come on, we're playing, the field's dry.
There it is.
So we go, and sure enough, lightning starts moving through the area, so they call it. And they say, everybody off the field for 30 minutes. So everybody goes to the vehicles. I'm looking at it on my phone. Everybody else is looking at it on their phone. That was right around the same time that you called me.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I don't want to badmouth anybody at TSSAA or anything. But anyway, they called the game. They shouldn't have played it anyway, in my opinion. They should have put it off for tonight or another night. But they played it anyway, and they played it right in the middle of when these storms were moving through. So they called everybody off the field, and then a few minutes later they said game over. And we was already in the bottom of the fifth, I think, so we was past that point.
Yeah.
So, and they were beating us 4-2, and we were mounting a
You could have
comeback.
came back.
It was looking like that because we had a little momentum shift, and our girls were, really hitting good and playing great defense. And then anyway, they called it. So my senior was ticked off, and her senior buddies were ticked off, and there was a lot of emotion because her and the other two seniors have been playing together since they were like 7 years old.
Wow.
Travel ball,
Wow.
the whole 9 yards. So. It was just a real crappy way to end because they're not playing college ball. Neither one of the other two seniors are going to play college
Get
ball.
me started on TSSAA today.
So anyway, that's where I was at. But you called when one storm had just moved through, and you was asking me if I had any of the
I had
details.
a bunch of buddies up there calling me, and I'm wearing the phones out trying to get somebody to answer, and obviously people in Murray County were conducting a little bit more important business than talking to Kip Capley, which I completely understand. And then,
that's happened to me before.
Yeah.
Be right in the middle of a shootout, and the phone rings, and it's somebody saying, "Hey, what's going on over there on that road
What's
y'all are at?"
So I got, people asking me if they need to take cover and everything else. And then, I called the county mayor up there, and she said, yeah, it's pretty rough. We don't know how bad it is yet, but it's pretty rough. And then, we got the reports now, and it's just devastating. It's awful, terrible. I feel for those people and families. It's a sad thing to see. But and I've never, I think I heard earlier today they had like 25 tornadoes touch down in the state or something yesterday. Or it was a crazy number.
I don't
all
know.
everywhere.
I don't.
don't know what it was. It was a lot.
I don't know. I was so mentally exhausted when I got in last night. I was out before my butt hit the recliner, and then I'm sure y'all have heard about the fire that we had early this morning. That's probably one of the more tragic things that's happened in Lawrence County in quite a while.
Yeah.
So I got that call. Well, I heard the call get dispatched out this morning. I think it was 7 something. And when they dispatched it out, the operator said that there was a lot of confusion on the line, and there may be people still in the house. So, I mean, you could hear everybody checking in on the radio that they was headed that way, and I heard my deputies out, and I was trying to get ready so I could get out there too. And I got out there, I don't know, sometime later after they had the fire under control, and then they made the discovery. And we had to tell some of the family members, what happened, and that's always the toughest part of our job, is letting the family members know something like that's happened. But anyway, we're very limited on what we can put out there about it. TBI is involved, and state fire marshal came down, but preliminary is looking like it's just an electrical fire that got out of control really, really fast. And it's tough. It's whenever that kind of stuff right there happens, it's a heck of a way to start your day out. But anyway, that's what we do. That's part of our job, being a first responder. So no, you can never say you get used to it, but you kind of get better at dealing with it, I guess is the best way to put it. But anyway, let's talk about some new laws in Tennessee. Man, let's quit talking about the rough stuff, and let's talk about some good stuff, because you were involved in this bill that is going to be going into law on July 1. And tell us a little bit about it. Tell us a little bit about what got you interested in it and why you feel like we needed to change it.
Well, I guess I'll go back from how it kind of got started. I was turkey hunting with Steve Wilson. Shout out to Steve Wilson, Chief of Police of Clifton. And
now wait, I got to stop you right there.
Yeah.
You went turkey hunting with Steve Wilson.
Yeah, been a couple times.
I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not going to say nothing. I know Steve, and I'm not going to say nothing. But go ahead,
times.
sorry.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure I heard you.
Hey,
right.
we go deer hunting and everything else. He's a good friend of mine. Me and him have a good time. But I was over there. We were in Lincoln County and just kind of shooting the breeze. And he said, it would be something really good for you to try to get done. And one thing led to another, and he said you should make it a felony to assault a law enforcement officer in Tennessee. And I'm like everybody else. I thought that was already a thing. And he's like, no, it's a misdemeanor. So I was just like, yeah, we'll try that. We'll see how that goes. So this year's session rolls around, and I filed it and was talking to Doggett, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna file this, and it's gonna kind of see how it goes. And he said, well, the fiscal note's gonna be pretty big on it, but I'll help you any way I can. Shout out to Clay Doggett. And so I get it filed. Language comes back, and we're working through the bills, and I get it back, and the fiscal note on it was $2.3 million reoccurring per year in the budget. And for the folks back home that don't know, fiscal notes will usually kill a bill, usually shoot your idea down pretty quick, depending on the cost. I mean, I've seen $25,000 bills all the way up to, obviously in the millions. So when I got that back, I thought, man, there's no way I can get this done. There's no shot as a freshman. I don't have the, I guess, the pedigree, you could say, to pull the strings to make it happen. So I'm talking to Clay and the majority leader, and, Clay's like, I got you back. It's going to be hard for you to do it, but just truck on and we'll see what happens. And went and talked with the speaker, and he liked it. He signed on to it, and going through this process. Apparently they've been trying to do it for 15 plus years, and this was the lowest the fiscal note had been, which is 2.3 million, which should tell you how big of an issue it is, because based on the fiscal note, that's how many assaults per year happen based on TBI numbers. So the higher the number, the more assaults, yada yada. Which basically, obviously the jail has expenses, prisons have expenses, and that all factors in. So 2.3 million, that's a lot of assaults on law enforcement officers. So working it through, and it just keeps moving and moving and moving. We get it through committees, and everybody's telling me I can't do it. Everybody, except for, certain people, like I said, Clay, and they're like, oh, man, you're just not going to get it funded. It's just not going to happen. Which you get up there and you pound your chest, and you just, you try to get it done. So I'm rocking and rolling. We get it all the way through, and it's got to go before finance. And I get a call from the majority leader. He's like, hey, we got it funded. This is the year to do it. We're going to do it. And, of course, me, I go crazy. I'm just like, celebrating, spiking the football, Oh,
good morning.
Come on in here.
Well,
that's morning to some people.
Get here when you can.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Can I fire him?
No.
I can't fire him neither.
No.
Well, tell me why I can't fire anybody if this is my show.
You bring him on and you don't pay him.
Okay.
Checkmate.
All right.
There's that.
So I apologize.
Nah, no worries. No worries. We figured you was
Days of the
probably.
week have slipped my mind, and I was out making money because police don't pay that much these days.
Well,
You're
I
not
thought
going to
y'all
get an
had all the
argument
money.
from
I
me.
didn't know.
No, you're not
That's-
going to get
that's
an
right.
argument from me. I've been saying that for years.
But anyways, I apologize.
No,
No worries, my
What are we
man.
talking about?
Play his disclaimer. Do we need to stop before we do anything?
Hold on, pause.
We've been doing.
Wait, before we get started, Blake, go ahead and say that speech you have to give.
Yes, that's what get that disclaimer out of the way.
I love it.
City employee, you know how it is. The opinions and views that I may share today are those of my own. They may or may not reflect the opinions and views of the city of Lawrenceburg and the Lawrenceburg Police Department.
Why do you find why is that so entertaining?
Why, is that funny? Because it sure wasn't when I got told I had to say
You've
that.
done a great job. You've done a great job.
So now let's talk.
All right, sorry, we was talking skid steers,
the-
skid steers and topsoil. I need a little bit. Clay was talking about the.
Wrong name.
No, I mean Clay. How many times do you get called Clay?
I bet you get that a lot.
I'm honored. Really. I think I look better than he does, but I'm honored.
Kip and Clay and Kip. No, Kip was talking a little bit about the assault on an officer bill that's going into law July 1. Where was you at before we got interrupted?
He was celebrating.
Yeah, I was.
That's right. You was fist pumping.
Yeah, fist pumping, spiking the football. We got the money for it, and especially as a freshman, that just you're not going to get 2.3 million. I mean, and there was some, there was some people that were a little gruntled that I got that much, because they had bills that they worked on, and obviously they supported it, but they were a little gruntled that I got that much. And like I said, I wasn't expecting it. I was trying for it and hoping for it, and we got it done. And like I said, I went ballistic for about 3 days, just fist pumping and spiking football because we got it done. Sailed it on through, got it to the floor, and y'all came. Appreciate you coming, and got it passed. And of course, the Democrats do what they do and complain and whine and moan about everything they can.
Well, before we talk about them, because I
Yeah.
was up there, let's talk about what it was before and what it is now. What's the difference?
I'm trying to remember what class misdemeanor
It was an A misdemeanor.
Yeah, A misdemeanor. Which
But I don't remember the sentence on it. I know what the sentence is now, but I don't know what the sentence was before.
It was.
I'll look it up.
I got it on my phone.
I think it was up to the DA. I don't think there was a mandatory
Well, now there is.
jail sentence on the old statute.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but now if you get convicted of assault on an officer, it's a minimum 60-day jail sentence.
Yep, I got it. So, increases the penalty for an assault on a law enforcement officer from Class A misdemeanor with a mandatory minimum of 30 days and a $5,000 fine to a Class E felony with a mandatory minimum of 60 days with a $10,000 fine. And it's, one of the X's because it's a felony. So, which is why it costs so much moving from a misdemeanor to a felony. And like I said, I just
which is a great tool now.
Yep.
Because that also covers my jail staff.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep,
that
if you got a badge.
That covers constables, park rangers.
Yep.
Pretty sure it covers reserve.
law enforcement officer, baby.
Yeah. So now if you feel like you want to swing at an officer, or you want to try him, or you want to spit on him, or you want to go after him,
Congratulations.
now you're getting smacked right in the face
You
with
get
a
a felony.
felony, and you're going to do 60 days in
right.
jail.
See, and that's a good
$10,000 fine.
thing because, and you know where I'm going with this. How many times have you gotten dispatched to a certain address, and just as soon as you put it in drive, am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. Just as soon as you put it in drive, you know when I show up, the fight's on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could sit here and rattle 4 addresses just like that. And now we've evened the playing field a little bit because used to, you knew you had to fight them, you fought them. Sometimes, you know, you walked away without a limp, and then sometimes you had some pretty sore places on your body the next day, and you just had to put up with it because that was part of the job.
Yeah.
Well, I don't fight bad guys like I used to, because now I got to be reputable. You know, I'm
Yeah,
sheriff. I
well,
got to be professional.
yeah,
I
you can't be
can't.
out
You
there
know,
Except
I
that
scrapping.
one
can't.
time you were chasing somebody and they took out cars along the way. That's my favorite story.
Well, every now and then, you know, the old John Myers surfaces, and I go back into my old ways. But anyway, you know, there's no telling how many times that we've had a violator say, you know, I think I'm just fixing to kick your, you know what,
Yeah.
or now you can say, well, because my favorite line used to be, well, man, if that's what you want to do, brother, I get paid the same whether you come peacefully or whether I got to drag you to the car. It don't matter. I'm going to get paid the same, so you step up. Now you can say, well, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something you might not know.
Yeah.
Now, Johnny Criminal, if you come after me,
Yep.
you're going to get a felony and you're going to serve 60 days when you get convicted
And
of
pay
it. And you're going to pay
$10,000.
10 grand.
And all them deer heads you got on your wall, that just ended too.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So now, I mean, I'm a big believer in verbal
I'll get-
judo, you know, and telling, but you know, I'll say, listen, don't let this influence your decision. If you still want to fight, you know, we'll go, but you're going to get a felony. You're going to stay in jail. You're going to come to my jail for 60 days, and you're going to pay me 10 grand. So,
And Doggett brought up a good point in committee when we were battling it out, and I had Republicans that didn't like it, and we can get into that too. And Doggett said when he was in law enforcement, he got a hold of a guy one time he arrested, and you know, he got in a scuffle with the arresting officers, and the guy said, "Oh, that's just a misdemeanor." Well, hell, I'll just beat the hell out of him next time if it's just a misdemeanor. So it's like, well, you know, not anymore. But yeah, we had Republicans that didn't like it. They said that we were creating a new class of people, and you know that the police officer was worth more than the lady at the, you know, working the counter at the grocery store or whatever else. And
I've never been assaulted by a lady working the counter at a grocery store.
no, and you know, I told them, I said, well, first off, they're already a different class of people because I mean, they're police officers, and I don't know many people walking around that can, you know, take me to the side or pull me over on the side of the road, and I'm not allowed to leave until they're done with me. I can't really think of anybody else that can do that. I don't know if y'all can, but I mean, that's kind of anyway. And
no,
they
you're-
didn't, you know, you
yeah,
start
you're right.
talking about that, and they're like, well, no, well, and I'm like, and again, how many people do you really know that are walking around that got common sense? Just be like, you know what, that guy's got a badge on. I'm really gonna see if I can step into this right hook. I mean, most people walking around don't think that way. I mean,
no, and I mean, and I
sensible
think
folks.
one of the questions that was brought up that day was, how's it going to work with somebody that's got some mental health problems or whatever?
Yep.
Well, you know what? That's not on us.
No.
I mean, that's not on us.
Nope.
If you're mentally challenged and you fight us and we charge you with assault on an officer, the DA is going to take all that into consideration.
Throw that in the court system.
It's going to be handled the same way. Every case is going to be treated individually, just like it's supposed to be.
Yep.
So this whole
100%.
idea that, well, it's going to cause this problem or that problem, no, it's not. It's just making it better for us, because here's the thing, guys. When we put our gun belt on in the morning, we go out. We might not have the most physically demanding job, say as somebody pouring concrete, or maybe somebody tying steel on a bridge crew, or somebody roofing houses or laying brick. But the stress level that you're under on this, when you do this line of work, because not knowing every call that goes out might be your last call. It might be the call that puts you in the back of the live flight and you're flying north somewhere. You don't know that. So I think it's a great thing, man. I appreciate you stepping up and pushing this through, because we've needed it for a long time.
Well,
and you know something, just to go further with that, and like John, I'm very appreciative of this bill, but in the comment, a different class of people, and I haven't read your bill in a while, but I'm pretty sure the words knowingly or willingly are somewhere in there. Yep. Now, if you just take a couple steps back and you think about that, no different than drug dealers or anybody else who knowingly and willingly commits a felony. Yep. When you do that, you're putting your own self in a different class of people.
That's right.
We do not go to work hoping and praying, man, I hope I get to fight somebody today. No.
I used to. There was early in my career, I had that mindset.
The 80s was a wild time in law enforcement, but I mean, we just don't do that. So, with a bill like this, it actually helps officers more than the average person thinks, because we don't want to fight anybody. We don't want to treat anybody wrong. We don't want to treat anybody mean. We want to do our job and go see our families at the end of the day.
And I had an old Democrat come up to me and talk to me about it, and he said, look, I'm worried that this is going to get abused. I'm worried that, John Q, citizen, whatever, is going to get asked to get out of the vehicle, and he's going to brush up against a badge, and they're going to smack him with a felony. And I just told him, I said, first off, what planet are you living on? What planet are you living? What state do you think you live in? And he said, well, I mean, we're in Tennessee. I said, yeah, I don't know. Now, look, you're going to have a bad egg anytime you go anywhere and do anything. And if that kept us from if I took that into consideration anytime that I ever did anything, I'd be sitting here and would never get anything accomplished, because we could play this what-if game every day, all day long. But no law enforcement officer in Tennessee, especially with the training academy and the stuff that y'all do and the day-to-day stuff, that's not going to get abused. I mean, wake up and realize that we're trying to make y'all's life not necessarily – I mean, it is going to be obviously different with this bill, but we're trying to create an extra step going forward for a reason of, if you assault a law enforcement officer in Tennessee, we're not playing around. I mean, you have got to respect law enforcement, and you've got to respect the law. And people say, oh, well, that's the parent's job. Or, oh, well, that should have been taught at home. Or, oh, well, that should have been this. Or, oh, well, that should have been that. Well, they're not doing it. That ain't on y'all, and they're not doing it. And it's I just don't have any sympathy for that argument.
And the difference in resisting arrest.
Yeah, and that's already a felony.
And assault on an officer. It's two different things.
Yes, it is.
And listen, and I'll give you an example.
Yep.
I mean, if somebody's struggling to get away, that's resisting. If they're aggressively trying to take your head off, that's assault on an officer.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, and when we sign the warrant, for example, if we make a warrantless arrest out here at 2 a.m. and we go in front of the magistrate and swear to the magistrate on our warrants, the magistrate can make that call.
Yeah.
I mean, he can make that call when we're establishing probable cause to get our warrant signed.
Right.
If he says, you know what, I'm not good with signing off on this warrant for assault on an officer right now, because what you've explained to me don't really sound like assault on an officer. It sounds more like resisting arrest.
And that's what I was fixing to ask you a while ago. In your really long time of being a cop, percentage
I don't
wise.
appreciate you laughing over there, man.
Percentage wise, out of everybody that's ever resisted you, how many times did you charge them?
Not every time.
There you go.
Not
All right?
every time.
You got a drunk woman who's ticked off that you just carried her drunk husband to jail for domestic assault, and she took a swing, or she pushed. Did you take her to jail each time? And that's where I'm going with this, is for those out there that think that this new bill will be abused by law enforcement. We already don't charge every time, because we understand sometimes the heat of the moment, or maybe there's a beer or two involved, and no. I think it'll be all right.
And it's just not the case. I mean, like I said, if somebody's getting out of the car, if you got them stopped somewhere on a domestic or whatever, and they're walking by you, and they, let's say they shoulder brush you, shoulder check you or something, and maybe they didn't do it on purpose. Most law enforcement officers that I know are not going to be just handing out felonies like they're giving out cotton candy.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be a clear, okay, I'm in a fist fight situation, or this has stepped up to a new level, and this is where we are now. And before that, like I said, it's a misdemeanor. It's nothing. It's like stealing somebody's cell phone. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
So
It's wild.
and I've got a picture. I took a picture of the votes as they came in.
Yeah.
So I could see exactly who voted against
Oh yeah,
this bill.
we played that too. That was fun.
And and is this still available? Is there a website that
Yeah.
Joe Citizen can
Yeah.
look and see if their state rep voted
Yeah.
for or against
Yeah,
this?
you can go to capital.tn.gov, and then in the top right or wherever you are on your cell phone, there's a little search bar. Type in HB 1881, and then that'll pull up the bill. You'll see my name, then you'll see the description. Scroll down, and you can go to votes, and then keep on going. It'll be at the bottom, and you can see the full vote count of everybody that voted for and
Do you remember it was 70 something yays and how many nays?
It was bipartisan support too. We had a bunch of Democrats that voted for it too, which about knocked me out of my chair.
Was there any surprises? Like,
Well, there's always a surprise.
So
when,
we've got no's were Afton Bain, flaming liberal, Karen Camper, who is the Democrat caucus leader, Vincent Dixie, Democrat from Nashville, Hakeem, Democrat from Chattanooga, Harris, Democrat from Memphis, Bud Holsey, who's a Republican. We can get into that. I love and respect him. We can get into that in a minute. Gloria Johnson, no surprise, run against Marsha Blackburn for Senate. Make your own decision there. Obviously need to vote for Marsha, but anyway. Justin Jones, idiot. Antonio Parkinson from Memphis. Justin Pearson, idiot from Memphis. Jason Powell, who's a Democrat from Nashville. Dwayne Thompson, Democrat from Memphis. Joe Towns, Democrat from Memphis.
So everybody that voted against it was a Democrat except for the one.
Except for Bud Holsey. So me and Bud had this conversation. He's a former police officer and still works, I think, part-time
No
for
kidding.
Bluff City in East Tennessee. Yeah, and me and him had a great conversation about it, and he just was one of those guys that said, hey, look, and he's the chairman of Criminal Fools, so I had to go for him. Me and him had to duke it out. He said, look, I just strongly believe that when you put on that badge, you fully take on the responsibility of your job. I'm not for increasing the penalty because that's part of the job. And me and him had a full-on conversation about it. And, I respect him for telling me up front where he was, and I had to go before his committee, and we duked it out. I won.
Well,
so.
back when this guy was probably a full-time officer, the officers back then had more leadway.
Oh, yeah.
They had more
probably right
respect.
on that.
They had more leadway. Back in those days, you didn't disrespect law enforcement.
Yep.
If you did, you better get ready because it's probably going to be a bad time.
right.
Yep.
Back then, you could, like I said, you could rough talk the bad guy. You can't even rough talk the bad guy now.
Okay, so I'm coming up on my 19th year, I believe. 19. What is this? 24? No, I think it's my 20th year. So, 15 years ago, which I know don't sound like a long time to you, but 15 years ago, okay, you could take
I'm gonna bring a real switchblade with me.
You could take a swing at me, okay, and I wouldn't take that much offense to it. But you spit in my face, okay. So for that clause to be in there. That's going to take that. I'm telling you, there's going to be so many bad things.
Oh, I'd rather be slapped. I'd rather be
I'm telling
sucker
you.
punched
I'm telling
than
you.
spit.
Right.
I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
You want to see the monster come out. You spit in an officer's face,
Talking
you're going
about
to see a
taking it to
different.
another
You're going to see a
level.
different side of
And
that guy.
again, you know, Bud was the perfect gentleman about the situation. I've got the utmost respect for him. I mean, he let me know ahead of time, and he just basically told me, you know, we're going to go mano a mano on this, and if you win, you win. And I did, and that was
You
was
won,
it.
and it's going to go into law, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other
Glad
big
to
one,
do it.
and of course they had a large presence up there. I guess large for that place, but the allowing teachers
Yeah.
to arm themselves. Where is that at? Is that done? Is that going to go into law July 1?
Yes,
That's
sir.
what I was thinking.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
I was co-sponsor number 1 on that sucker.
I
Number one.
met yesterday with another law enforcement official, 2 of my training guys, and a representative with the school system.
Yep.
Had a great conversation. Had a great meeting, about an hour-long meeting.
Yep.
There was concerns that was voiced about it. There was a lot of good conversation came out of it, and there was a lot of questions that were answered.
Yep.
And it came out really good. It was a really good conversation.
What
and
was the most common question?
the biggest
question
question that this individual with our school system had, and the question that he had been hearing was if we arm a teacher, is that teacher going to have a duty to intervene? Is that teacher going to be expected to go address the shooter or whatever the situation is?
I think that's 2 different answers.
Well, and the
Yeah, it
way
would depend on
there is no duty to intervene.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and one of my trainer guys, he taught the concealed carry class for years, and he taught that part in his class. You know, just because you're getting a permit to go armed does not mean you have a duty to act.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
That's
it's there's nowhere in any case law,
true.
any court opinions
Yep.
that says you have a duty to act. And I think that was the biggest issue was, are we gonna assign this guy or this woman that we let carry to an area of the school, and that's their responsibility.
Yep.
And after conversation, the way we determined how that law was drawn up was, if my teacher, if you're a teacher and you're responsible for 25, 30 kids, your responsibility is for your 25 to 30 kids.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't want you to leave the safety of 25 or 30 kids to go 4 hallways down to try to engage an active shooter. You know, I want you to be there with your 25 kids, you know. Though, what's the old saying? You don't give up what you already got. You know, you've already got that safe, so don't leave that. So anyway, it was a great conversation. We talked about the vetting process. That law really opens up the school system to enforce their own policies.
It's completely permissive.
As far as the vetting process, as far as the training,
40
which
hours,
it's 40 hours up. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. It looks to me like it's 40 hours of post-certified training and 40 hours of some other equivalent training. So I read it as 80 hours up front, and then every year it's 40 hours.
Yep. So it's I can't remember how they broke it down, but it's something like that. And yeah, there's been so much talk about it, and I had people blowing me up, and teachers that liked it and didn't like it, and school board members for and against it. And you know, we already had a provision in code. I guess it's been about 10 years ago, where 6 or 8 of the distressed counties in Tennessee that couldn't afford SROs, they already had this. So this was already a thing. And you know, I guess some people that weren't really paying attention didn't know that. And we kind of stressed that to them because, of course, they brought up it's going to be dangerous, and you're going to have kids that get a hold of these guns, and they're just going to leave them in the bathroom, and they're going to leave them in their desk, and somebody's going to grab all. We'd done it for a number of years, and that never happened. And John, me and you had talked about this probably a year or so ago when you were down a SRO officer. He had surgery or something, and I had some other counties across the state that they were down a guy or two. And they kind of had to do a rotating shift, or you've got one officer that's covering 2 or 3 within a 5-mile radius, and that's just a recipe for a disaster. I mean, and I asked one of the people that was against it. I said, "Do you want nobody there? You don't want anybody with a firearm there? You're just fine with them having nothing? Is that?" Because a lot of times these people that when they complain, and I'm not being super critical or trying to be a jerk, but don't come to me and complain about something if you don't have another solution. I don't want to hear it. Because it's permissive. You got to have training. You got to go through a psych eval, and it's not like we're just having a blind shuffle and throwing a 9mm in a high school and just saying, all right, somebody's got one.
And those are the minimum requirements. Yeah. Y'all left the door open for the lead law enforcement official, me, from what I've been told,
yes, sir,
can get with the school system and even add more on top of it. Yep. So, for example, if we see a need for 12 more hours of basic marksmanship and gun safety, or an additional 4 hours of weapon retention, we can add that in there.
Yep.
If we feel like we can all. I mean, there's a whole bunch of areas in that law that we can tweak.
And if you're not comfortable doing it, nobody's forcing.
It's not mandatory.
And that's what I was thinking.
It's not mandatory at all.
And I've thought about this for a while because up front, the first thing that came to mind was, this is a great idea, but I hope a student get a hold of a gun. But with that being said, you take a look at our country, and you look at those areas of our country that have the strictest gun laws, they also have the worst crime.
Yep.
And I can't help but think that and listen, when I refer to teenagers as idiots, it's just because they haven't grown up and become educated and mature yet. It's not because they're really idiots. But I can't help but think that some of these young people in our high schools that are thinking about doing harm to others, that now it has to cross their mind instead of one solo SRO officer and probably the principal who's got one in a lockbox, okay? Now, they don't know who all's armed.
But, I talked to my kids about this, which my kids, their dad was a police officer for years. They grew up around guns. They hunt everything. And I said, how would you feel if your teacher was armed? And, I mean, we go on lockdown in Lawrence County, and when kids go on lockdown, they have fear. But to know that, Zaley said, it would make me feel better to know that if somebody entered the classroom, that my teacher could protect me if they choose to carry. And, I mean, that's coming from a 12-year-old.
Right.
So I think it's going to put not only, parents at ease, but kids at ease. And, I mean, if my kid's teacher decides to be certified to carry a gun, more power to them. Let them do it. I mean, if they don't want to, that's up to them. But, me and John talked about it yesterday. It's all about what they're comfortable with.
And like I said, the meeting went great. And what we all agreed on, we're one of the few counties, well, not few counties. There's a few counties that don't have SROs in every school across the state. And they need this more than we do.
Yep.
I think every county needs it. But we're fortunate. We have an SRO. We have an armed, certified, bona fide, well-trained, well-armed deputy in every school. And we have an additional one now to take up the slack if somebody has to leave early or whatever. So we're in really good shape in Lawrence County.
But we're fixing to be in better shape.
But we're going to be in better shape.
About it. Why do they target schools? Because it is a target-rich environment. They know there's not a lot of resistance there. They know the possibility of becoming exterminated before they reach their goal.
Yeah, there's no way to wrap your head around somebody that's got those kind of demons in them.
No,
there's they've got people talking to them in their head. They got demons. I mean, if you got a voice in your head telling you to go take a high capacity weapon and go shoot small kids in a classroom, you're already gone.
I agree.
You know, yeah, you're done. What this law will do is it'll add another layer
Yep.
of protection if the schools want it. There's nothing mandatory about it. There's absolutely nothing mandatory about it. And we're right in the beginning of it, and we all agreed yesterday we're just going to slow roll this process. We're going to make sure we've got a solid policy. We've got all of our T's crossed and our I's dotted, and then we'll start easing into the program. But we're in no hurry because, like I said, we're one of the counties across the state that has a deputy in every school.
And there's no rush. I mean, it's like I said, it's permissive, and it's something you can take your time with. And on top of that, it's just the thought maybe that could enter that person's brain, knowing that they see that sign or they know that a teacher on top of the SR that they don't know who it is, have no idea. Even if it's a student in the school, they have no clue. I'm not just going to go for the SRO. Whatever else, just that thought maybe could be a deterrent too, knowing that there's armed. You know where they don't have a lot of shootouts? Gun stores.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Because everybody in there strapped to the teeth. So, I mean, look, I'm not saying we need to convert schools like gun stores, but I'm saying the presence of a trained person with a firearm is a deterrent.
There's a few misconceptions we'll talk about real quick about it too. It has to be a concealed
on the body
pistol, right? I don't know if pistol is the wording or not, but
sidearm, and it has to be concealed physically on the person. They cannot leave it in the desk when they go to the bathroom. They can't leave it in their purse when they go take a break. It has to be on their body the whole time.
That's in the wording.
Yes,
because that was a question we had. For example, they make concealed carry purses, concealed carry briefcases, concealed carry other stuff.
Got to be on the body.
That's got to be on their person.
On the person.
So let's say that Joe Teacher has to go to the bathroom, and he has a floor-mounted safe in his closet. He locks it up, goes. Is that an option?
Maybe I'd have to look at the bill. Maybe it could be, but to my knowledge and my understanding of it was it had to be on them at all times. Now I'll have to look again because I know Ryan put an amendment on it. I don't know if that changed it or not. I won't sit here and get the line, but to my knowledge, it had to be on their person.
Okay. Yeah, and I had it, and I was going to bring it, and I forgot that went over some of a summary of it.
And I like that. I like that mindset because that will then up the responsibility of the teacher even more. Okay, well, thank you for, wanting to go armed to protect our children, but, oh, by the way, we got a little housekeeping to do. Now, I wouldn't be against if, like in the teacher's lounge, if they had a gun box to maybe go secure that weapon while they go to the bathroom and then immediately come right back and put it back on their person. But I do like the fact that they have to keep it on their body.
And there's a provision on it that I didn't like. There's a part where they can't go to football games and pep rallies and stuff like that.
I saw that. What was the reasoning for that?
Well, they just, I don't.
Just really, because the high number of people that's going to be in close proximity to them.
Yeah, and the problem with that, you see I don't want to be singling any counties out, but you see a lot of shootouts in Shelby County and Davidson County at football games and basketball games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's where you see them. It's where you see in those areas. And I didn't like that part of it, but that's all right. I mean, that's, we take baby steps and try to get good policy in, and then maybe we can adjust it down the road. But.
Something we also discussed about it. And I mean, my question, and I've been asking a lot of people because I've been asked what do I think about this bill about to be law. And I always ask before we get started in the conversation, well, what's your fear about it? What is your fear about a faculty member or a teacher or a principal or whoever carrying a loaded firearm concealed on their person? And one, they're concerned that a kid could get a hold of it, and two, the other concern is the teacher losing his temper with a student and pulling his pistol out on him.
I can sit here and say that most of my teachers probably thought about strangling me a few times, but I honestly don't know the first one that would have shot me. So, I mean, come on. How many times you think about it when you're at Walmart walking around?
Shooting people?
Well, no, I'm talking. No, getting shot. I mean, it's the same principle.
I got bumped with a buggy. Let's go.
Yeah. Or at church. I mean, hey, seriously, in the past 10 years, I bet you hands down the percentage of people carrying firearms at church has increased 4 times. Easy.
Sure it has. And I mean, rightfully so.
Right.
Rightfully so,
So it's the
because
same
I've
thing.
said this more times than I can count since I have been sheriff. It's a really good time to be a criminal in America. It is. Mm-hmm. They have more leadway. They have more laws. They have more. They have more rights than a law-abiding citizen. It's a fact of the matter.
Yep.
And I mean, and you have liberal DAs and liberal judges standing out there ready to lock me and you up and take everything that we have and put us in prison for the rest of our days for making a snap decision. How many snap decisions do you make in a week?
It's crazy.
You probably make 100.
I'd-
I mean, I'm talking a 2-second snap decision.
Yep.
You get one of them wrong now, you get an indictment. You go to prison. That's the way it is now.
We got them in Tennessee that want to do that to you. We got
So,
I mean,
you know, I'm glad to see anything going to the good guys, because I still see things in black and white. Yeah, I do. I still see things. I mean, you got good guys and bad guys. I'm sorry.
I agree.
There's some gray area, you know, but for the most part, it's been this way for the last almost 4 years,
It's
3.5 years.
Let's go further with that. The good guys are not always the cops, because at the end of the day, the good people in our community, when they know that we have more tools on our belt and can go out and do our job better and safer, the good people in our community that are not law enforcement, it's a win for them too, because they're like, okay, they can go out and do their job.
I've always said it, the more good, and I'm going to say 2 things. The more good guys you got carrying guns, the safer we are. I'm always going to say
right.
it. And I'm a huge Second Amendment guy. Listen, I'm the biggest proponent for it ever. But there are people out there that can legally own, buy, sell, and possess firearms that don't need them.
Amen.
That is what we talked about more than anything yesterday, is the vetting process. And making sure that we don't give somebody the ability to go armed at school that don't need to be.
Yep.
And that's one of the questions, you know. I was on Facebook last week, I think it was, and there was, I don't know who it was. I guess it was a teacher somewhere. It might not even been in Lawrence County. But they said, but they was evidently a teacher, and they made the comment, well, I don't even trust myself with a kitchen knife, let alone a firearm. And I wanted to chime in and
Then
say,
don't volunteer.
that's the reason why you're not going to be carrying one.
Right.
You know, even if you wanted to, with that kind of mindset, that's the reason why we wouldn't let you do it.
So let's go back to the housekeeping and procedure and policy and so on and so forth. So obviously this is voluntary. Does the principal or does the school superintendent have the authority to revoke that?
Yeah, or the sheriff. Yeah.
So the sheriff himself can say this teacher is not.
Either. I
going
think
to
it's
participate.
sheriff, director of schools, and principal.
Well, it was
There's
a chief.
third
It was the police chief, but all of our schools in Lawrence County are county schools, and we have county deputies there. There's
chief
some
law enforcement officer. I
There's
think is how
some
it's written.
counties that have city police officers that
Yeah.
work in the city schools
Yep.
and then county, but we're not like that. We have sheriff's deputies in all the schools. So that chief of police would be included
Yep.
in that. But, I mean...
So just more checks and balances then. I mean,
The fact of the matter is, there's nobody in a school that's armed that isn't going to be, number one, well-trained. They have to be a good shot.
Yep.
Something we're going to push is at least a triple retention holster. That's something that we're going to add. We talked about that. and we're also going to put into that post-certified training a block, and I don't know how many hours, but a block of instruction on basic weapon retention techniques, how to react if somebody tries to get your weapon out of your holster. So all that being said, we're going to look real hard at the training, and we're going to look real hard at the vetting process. And when we get this going, it's not going to be done in a BS way. It's going to be done the right way.
And the psych eval's no joke either. I mean, that's not just like playing tic-tac-toe on a sheet of paper. I mean, that's pretty serious.
That's
from what
4
I
hours of like taking a rusty screwdriver,
Yeah,
and sticking it in your ear, and twisting it.
Yep,
It is
serious.
I enjoyed it.
You would.
I enjoyed it. The first one.
That does not
that
surprise
does not
me
surprise
at all.
me a bit.
I can see
It's
Blake
great
loving it.
because it makes me. Well, the first one I took was like 390 questions. It was like a I don't know, hour and a half deal. The second one I took, I believe it was like something. I mean, crazy. It was like 1,100 questions, and you're sitting there and it's like, "Are you a thief?" No. And then like 20 questions later, have you ever stolen anything in your life? Yes. And it's like, wait a minute.
And they put those
How did he
questions.
pass?
They put those questions right between, like,
Yeah,
are you allergic to eggs? And then the next question will be, do you believe in aliens?
Or do you love your mother? Do you have a good relationship with your father? I mean, it's and don't get me wrong, they are very.
Is that something
very
every
good.
police officer has to do?
Yes.
Every one of us. Every one of us has to pass psychological. And there's a pattern. These psychiatrists, they can sit down and they can look at the results. And what'll happen is, for example, if you go take one, Kip, we'll get a phone call from the psychiatrist or the psychologist or whoever, and they'll say, okay, he's good to go for working for you. And it's a pass or fail, a yes or no. But then I will get a detailed report that will go into not your personnel file, but it'll go into a separate file, and it'll break down like this person is
Easy to anger.
He's confident, but he's easy angered. He's it'll break your personality, and it's pretty interesting.
Mine would
stuff.
probably say tends to cry a lot.
No,
not
he'd
higher.
probably be like, "Hey, John, do not
Yours
hire
would be
her.
no. You wouldn't pass, man.
Do not give her a gun."
Okay, I'm saying, first off, I just know that I would like to take one just to see if it would say, like, could I go into law
I could see the
enforcement?
psychiatrist coming out crying.
And being like, absolutely no way can she be a law enforcement
You get a text.
officer.
Do not hire.
As a matter of fact, come get her now.
Not
We've had
eligible
this conversation before.
for employment.
But it's a good tool.
Easy to anger.
How much time we got?
3 minutes.
Hey, I need to go over some stats real quick.
Yeah.
Let me pull them up. What do y'all want to bet? What's the bet? What's the bet on the call volume for what was last month? April.
Got to be over it.
1,100. But I got to make sure I get a shout out in. This is very important, so go.
About what?
You don't
About
even
your
have it pulled
stats.
out
Okay,
yet.
you ain't got pulled out yet. Listen, I want to give a shout out to Tyler McDowell. All right, we had a situation where we had a lame horse on the asphalt on our busiest intersection in
I heard
Lawrenceburg.
about that. Was that an Amish horse?
No, it
No,
wasn't. So
it
this
was in
guy
a
was
trailer.
carrying 3 horses. His trailer came off the hitch and hit the ground. When he did, 2 of the 3 horses went down. It took one about 25 minutes just to get her up. One of them, they ended up having to drag out of the trailer to make it more easier. Fire department's there spraying water on the asphalt to keep the horse cool. I ran to Dr. Pitts' office to get a vitamin B12 shot, brought it back with the speed limit.
Of course.
And, I mean, nothing is there. So finally they call Tyler McDowell. He brings his big commercial wrecker up there. And after a few minutes of some intense moments, they were able to get the horse back on his. Even the horse owner was like, my horse is fixing to die. She has totally given up. I mean, he already made that decision. I'm fixing to lose a horse. But Tyler was there with the help of the fire department, police department.
Good deal.
A few deputies were there.
Good deal.
The
Yeah,
horse lived.
He does a good
Man,
job.
He is.
Horse
Good guy.
whisperer.
Good guy.
Yeah. That's all.
1,209 calls.
I said 1,100.
1,209 calls for service, including 326 arrests. Think of 326 arrests.
Well, you're still serving
We're
those
still serv-
papers hot and heavy, right?
Yeah. 139 traffic stops, 33 crashes. 405 civil papers served.
That is
Telling you,
insane.
we
Cranking
lighting
them
it
out.
up, lighting
Cranking
it up,
them.
cranking them out. We led 23 funerals. We had 19 mental transports. Answered only 10 domestics.
It's down.
That was way
Yeah,
down.
way down.
But 46 vandalisms. So
Let's
I
get
mean,
You were
warmer.
serving like over 14 papers a day.
It's fixing to get hot
Look at
outside,
y'all.
so he's just
But
going,
I mean, no, like
here-
that is really low
Yeah,
for this
that's-
time of year
I know,
because
that's-
when it gets hot, they do go up.
it's
30,
get warm.
38 animal calls.
Okay.
I have got to get an animal control deputy. I'm working on that. I've got to get one. I mean, I worked one day last week on nothing but dog calls. 2 different areas, 2 different, and a ton of complaints.
I know 2 or 3 people run for dog catcher.
And I see, well, you know them, let me know. Tell them to come 240 West Gaines. I'll give them an application. I guess we got to go.
My
What time?
dog got out of my fence, my beagle, and I guess someone called the cops on him, which I knew the city officer that brought him back, but like he was carrying him up because he knew he went to my house, and I caught him on my Ring doorbell camera, and I was like, sorry, didn't know he was out. Thanks for putting him back. And he was like, anytime, Maddie, it's fine.
Before we leave, have you ever ate at that Mediterranean restaurant in Spring Hill?
I have not. I've heard decent things about it.
Have you? Do you know the name of it, Maddie? Have you ever ate there? Somebody was telling me about it. I'm on this Mediterranean diet thing that I've been
Lord.
trying to do because it's healthy.
This
I mean, it's
age.
good for your heart. The
This age.
Mediterranean diet's great for your heart,
Your
and your blood
age.
pressure, and your cholesterol. Well, anyway, I'm trying to
We
find the
can
name
Google
of it.
it.
Just give me a steak,
Just,
medium rare.
Yeah.
we'll get off air
Right
and
there.
Google it. How's that?
Cava Restaurant, Mediterranean fast casual restaurant chain with locations across the United States. I'm thinking that's it.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, everybody say
All right, we got to go.
Bye-bye.
To discuss that series and all the other series going on in the NBA playoffs. Lots